Welcome to the Monster Hits Club podcast and break room show for sports card and hobby enthusiasts. Brought to you by Piece of the Game. And now, here's your host, First Pitch Mitch.
Welcome, everyone. Happy Monday. We are back. Monster Hits Club, welcome to the show. I am your host, First Pitch Mitch, a.k.a. Money Mitch P, and I have my co-host, Quarantine Steve, with me. Steve, say hello to the crowd.
Good evening, Mitchell. I'm coming off my 4-day little weekend from work, my birthday weekend, so I'm refreshed and ready to go.
That's right. You had a birthday on Friday, and Steve turned 22. So, happy birthday, buddy.
Yeah, that one, brother.
Can you imagine if we were turning 22 again?
If I was 22 right now, I'd be too drunk to do this podcast.
Correct. That is correct. All right. What are we talking about today, Steve? So a lot has happened over the past week. We're going to be joined shortly by Tim Ryder, who is an editor on Metsmerizedonline.com. So he's going to dial in probably in about 5 minutes. And hopefully, because last night I couldn't figure out when I interviewed Austin how to get Skype to work and get him on the screen. And I realized I needed these trusty headphones probably so that his voice didn't come over the speaker of the TV or the monitor and then play into the microphone, and then it would be an endless cycle of hearing Austin and myself just repeat ourselves over and over again, and it would be just a nightmare. So I needed to grab myself some headphones, and it was late last night, so I didn't grab them. And now I do have them. So hopefully the whole Skype thing, he's going to Skype in I think about 4 minutes. I got to keep my eye on on my Skype here. I don't want to miss his call. And then I'll pull him up on the screen, and then I think we'll be good to go. Hopefully this works. Because otherwise, it's just going to be you and me again, which is fine, because we're awesome, right?
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
So let
definitely.
me give a little sports update before we were joined.
Yes.
So once again, baseball has the opportunity to have basically America's complete attention focused on the sport.
Oh, yeah.
With a July 4th return.
Oh, yes.
And somehow, some way, the owners and the players are going to bumble this golden opportunity.
I concur completely. And I'll actually say, I think, at first, it's funny that you bring this up, because at first I really was like, why would the NBA start so late, and then push back next season, and then you're bleeding into next season. The guys aren't going to get that much of a break. I know they kind of been off for almost 3 months now? Has it been that long already?
So about March 12th, something.
So now they had a little bit of an early start, but then they're going to be in a super long season. Now, is that going to affect their health or that? But then I was thinking about, I was like, NBA is more of a global sport than the MLB. It was probably more important for them to come back. And I actually talked about this with Austin last night, that they'd be absolutely, I'd be beyond myself or beside myself if they didn't actually show or nationally televise every game that they possibly could to get some exposure to some of these West Coast teams that we don't always get a chance to see on the East Coast, and vice versa. Well, the West Coast usually gets to see East Coast games, but when you're talking about games ending at 1 and sometimes even pushing 2 in the morning, a lot of people on the East Coast are not staying up to see the Aitons and the Bagleys and the guys that, well, Bagley's been hurt, but you know what I'm saying.
It's incomprehensible that you have this opportunity and you can't come to some sort of agreement. And the sad thing is they're probably going to come to some sort of agreement. But the problem with baseball is the preparation needed for the pitchers. You're looking at minimum 6 weeks, I would say. So we're already at the second week of June. you're going to run right into the NBA. You're going to run right into everything coming back. You're going to run right into football, and you're just going to blend right in.
Yeah.
To everything else that's out there. Whereas you could have came back on the 4th of July, you could have had basically a full month of a country that's absolutely craving any type of sports.
Yeah.
You could have marketed your players that you don't have the opportunity to market. It's just, it's frustrating. And in a sport like baseball, I really don't know if a 70 to 80 game season really, I mean, I don't know. As a Yankee fan, listen, I'm going to be happy if they win it all, but I don't know how, if I'm going to have the same type of feeling as 09 or the 4 in a row, the 4 out of 5. I don't know how I'm going to feel about that.
I feel it. I understand. But where are we going with sports right now? Like, we know the NBA is coming back. I can't wait to see how it feels and what it looks like. I wonder what the NFL is going to do. I mean, it's just going to be, I don't know what it's going to look like.
Basketball is going to be a tough sport to come back because of how close the fans are and how much fan interaction there is. In the NBA, I don't think it affects football as much because it's so separated from the sidelines. I mean, you could pipe in crowd noise. That's easy. But just the visual concept of the NBA.
Right.
You think about watching it with no people in seats. It's kind of like watching a college game that's not really well attended, and it definitely has a worse feel. You know those like tournament type games where there's no one really there yet? It's going to have that kind of feel. It's going to be a little weird.
Yeah. Now, I don't know. I just don't know how do you think it impacts cards? Now, I'll tell you what. I know you couldn't join the interview last night.
Actually, negatively. I can explain why. Right now, we talked about this on a podcast before.
Yeah.
Right now, everybody's in the eternal optimism mode. Everybody's in spring training mode. Every guy in your head, in your mind's eye, every guy is performing as best as they humanly can when they come back. So you're going to have guys come back. They're going to disappoint. So I think I don't know how much better the card market could do. I mean, the card market's always hottest to me, other than when a guy wins a Super Bowl or an MVP or something extraordinary. The guys' cards are always hotter right before the season. And we've basically had 3 months of right before the season. So I don't know how it could get any better. I mean, if in your eyes, if Giannis wins an NBA or LeBron, I mean, I don't know how much more where LeBron's cards could go. I mean, Anthony Davis, I think it could give a boost to.
Yeah.
Maybe Paul George. I don't know how much more Kawhi's cards could go up. I don't know. I really don't know. In this kind of market where everything's had an up bullet for months, I don't know what encore performance is going to necessarily do. Maybe I'm underestimating it. But what's your opinion on it?
I was going to tell you, me and Austin dabbled into this, and unfortunately you couldn't join in the conversation last night, so that's why I'm glad we could pick it up today and get your perspective. But we talked a lot about, and I actually brought this up, and me and you talk about this a lot. It's not only sports coming back, but what do we have to look forward to moving forward? Like the NBA, the rookie class is what sustains the cards really moving forward. And when you look at the NBA, they pretty much shot their load the past 2 years. I don't think they'll even come close to matching the type of hype and player, the type of players that we've seen the past 2 years next year. So where does that cause a significant drop off? Which I think it does. But I also said,
I think the one and done going away is going to hurt cards too, because you're not going to have that built-in marketing machine of Duke for some or North Carolina or Kansas or pick your school.
Yeah.
You're not going to have that built-in familiarity for the collector of these kind of players. Now Luka's a little different; he's international, but everybody you knew Bagley. I mean, you knew these guys coming you knew Badley from Duke. You knew you knew these guys coming in, and as more guys go to the G League, I mean, in the next couple of years, the one and done. So you're going to have 8, 9 guys coming right into the NBA. I don't know. I mean, maybe in the internet age, everybody knows who LaMelo Ball is now. Everybody knows R.J. Hampton. Maybe it doesn't matter anymore. But I still think if Zion goes straight from high school to the NBA, I don't think there's nearly that much hype going into the season.
I hear you. All right, hang on, because we got Tim joining us here. Hang on one second. Tim, let me know if you could hear me. Hopefully you can.
Yo.
Oh, no. Can you hear me?
Hey, man.
And it's still coming out of the speaker.
You're breaking up a little bit.
All right, hang on.
Give me 1 second. Let me see if maybe it's on my end.
Hey, Tim, real quick, are you going to video in or not? Because if you don't video in and you're just going to be on voice, I could switch. I could take these pilot headphones off, and I could. Oh, we lost them. We lost them. See, technical difficulties, Steven.
Severe technical difficulties.
I haven't figured out how to Skype people in yet. I mean, I'm still kind of new to all this, so hopefully. I don't understand why he was not coming through. You know what? Maybe I got to turn this monitor off here and just run old school with one monitor because, oh, great. Now I lost the Skype. It's not even on my screen anymore. Jeez. All right, hang on. All right, keep talking, Steve, while we wait for this. We figure this.
I'll just continue with what I was saying.
Yeah.
When you take, you take a guy like Cade Cunningham is the next guy to come out after next year, after the LaMelo Ball class, which everybody acknowledges is absolutely horrendous.
Oh man,
Hang on,
a bunch of static.
Tim, can you hear me or no? I cannot hear you. Can you hear me? Hang on. Nope. That didn't work. All right, sorry. Interrupted again. Technology, Steven.
Technology. I have to break down the 2020
falling apart.
NBA draft.
Technology not going well right now.
I can probably go up to 2022 NBA draft. Then we're going to run into problems.
Oh, my gosh. You know what? I'm going to have to try switching some stuff around right now. Hang on one second. I'm going to try to do this. We're going to lose the... oh, no, we didn't lose the microphone. All right, we still got you. I'm going to do that. And I'm going to roll with just that microphone and see if that makes a difference. And hopefully it does. And then I could Skype our boy Tim in here. All right. All right, so what were we saying? I can't even call him now. It's not even worth it. Working. All right.
Well, the plan is to hold this off long enough for the actual baseball season to start before the ball starts.
Oh, can you hear me now? Oh, I fixed it! Hey, what's up? Hang on, I'm going to pull you on the screen. I fixed it. All right, hang on. Give me 2 seconds here. All right, guys, we got Tim Ryder from Metsmerized online joining us. I am going to pull him up on the screen right now, and then we are going to have some fun. Tim, meet Steve. He's my co-host. Steve, he said, what's up? Oh, he can't hear you because I have the headphones on.
Yeah.
But this is the only way we're going to be able to do this. Oh, boy. What a nightmare this is turning into. All right, hold on. Display capture. Not what I wanted to do. Technical difficulties. First time trying to Skype. I couldn't Skype Austin in last night, so I used FaceTime and just threw him up. I just literally put the phone next to the camera so that the people could see him on FaceTime. So, all right, hang on. I'm going to have you up on the screen in like 2 seconds here, I think. It's one of these. Now I have you up on every screen, which is not what we want. You're all over the joint. Hold on, that wrong button. Technical difficulty, Steven.
The editing department is going to.
You can't hear him, Tim? He can't. You can hear him, but he can't hear you.
He can't hear me?
No, he can hear you, Steve.
Oh, okay.
But you're very low, so that must mean for pretty much the whole podcast you've been low. Which is not what we want. Alright, I gotta get this off the screen right now. There's just massive technical difficulties. Alright, hold on. Alright. It's not window, is it? Oh, it is window. Alright, let me see. Why can't I bring up your video of your face? It will not let me drag you into the screen here. This is really inconvenient. Super inconvenient. Alright, so hold on. Discard.
Welcome to Intro to Podcasting.
Yes. Do we have a 101 on video casting? I don't think we do. Tim, talk, because hopefully they can hear you. I don't think they can hear you. Oh boy. Yeah, we this is not going well. I should have probably did a practice before this. Yeah, I probably should have, but this is just wasting time right now. Alright. No, give me one more second here. I don't give up that easy. I don't give. It's not like people actually watch these whole podcasts anyway. I usually send out little clips. Yeah, see, you're dropping stuff too. Oh my God, what is going on? Why can't I put this on the screen? Listen, I'm going to have a long talk with OBS because they are killing me right now. All right. Try one more thing here. No, that's not going to work. All right. Scene? No. How do I get Skype on the screen? Why is there nobody live chatting me right now to tell me this? All right. Game capture. No. It's got to be window capture, right? It just keeps bringing... It just shows me... Oh, my Lord. Xbox Companion? Is that it? No. We could not connect your selected camera since it might be in use with it. Can you see me? Wow. Mess. Alright, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to Skype you from my cell phone, and then that way everyone will be able to hear each other, and I'll put you on, the way I did with Austin yesterday, so give me 2 seconds, and I'll Skype you in. And Steve, I'll Skype you right back, Tim, sorry. Sorry for the technical difficulties, everyone. Tim will be right back. Alright. Stevie. Talk, Steve. I want to make sure that people can still hear you. Alright, so the good news is I can take these headphones off. The bad news is I don't know if I have Skype on my phone. So, give me 2 seconds, people. Alright. Alright, we're back. We got a microphone. Alright, Steven. Let's figure this out. I think I have Skype on this phone. We're going to Skype in Tim, and then you'll be able to hear him now at least. And I should have done this before taking everyone roundabout through all that other nonsense. So it's just going to be a minute. So, Steve, what were we talking about here? Do you even remember? Before all the confusion?
Yeah, I was breaking down the NBA draft. Been a couple of years.
Confusion 101.
We'll save that for a future podcast.
Yes. All right, I can put this screen back on. What a disaster, guys. I am sorry. I actually have to download the Skype app now. But, like I said, we don't quit on this show. It's only 7:24. We're only 20 minutes in. You know? You know what I'm saying, Steve? We're only 20 minutes in, baby. We have plenty of stuff to talk about here. All right. Nobody's watching live, so that's probably a good thing. All right.
The 89 World Series had less technical difficulties than this podcast.
Here's another problem. I do not know my Skype password whatsoever. There's no chance in hell I'm going to remember this. Oh, man. Let's see. Throwing up a wing and a prayer here. Oh. Am I in? Wow! First try!
Windmill 03?
Yes! Wow. First freaking try. I am the bomb. All right. I'm calling Tim back. Let's see if this works. All right. It's ringing. You could hear it. Ding, ding, ding. There's Tim. All right.
We got it.
We got it now. Hold on. Now I got to put you on the screen. All right. I'm going to give you some screen time here. There you go. A little out of focus. Let me get the focus on this. Oh, this is why. All right. There we go. All right. So we're going to do it this way, everyone. Turn the volume up. All right. You are on the show, Tim.
You're live. What's up, guys?
How's it going?
Hey, Steve.
All right. So Tim meets Steve. Steve meet Tim. You're both on cell phones, and I'm sitting here trying to figure all this out. But one day I'll get it. So we'll just do it this way.
COVID-19.
No, I'm just gonna listen, man. Hey, we're good. It's working now. I think everyone could hear you. Like I said, most people don't listen to the show from start to finish, so it'll be a small blip on the radar. I can make a nice preview or a nice highlight going from this part forward. So Tim is from Metsmerized Online, like we were saying before, right?
Yes. Yeah, I've been there for a few years now. This was going to be my 4th season with MMO.
Okay.
Still waiting on that to begin.
Yeah.
We got the podcast Simply Amazing. Really a team of great writers. I believe you've contributed there in the past, right, Mitch?
Yeah, I was a long time ago. I was executive editor and helped launch Metsmerized.net. So
is that right?
Yeah. I actually launched that website with Matt Musico and a couple other guys, and I was the executive editor right before Mike took over, I believe, after me. Yeah. Yep.
This is before my time. I had a Twitter account, and I didn't really use it until I was at Metsmerized. And I missed out on a bunch of Metsmerized history. I had no idea of that.
Yeah. So
I knew you were with us at one point, but I didn't know that whole backstory.
Yeah. I mean, every spring I usually get the little itch to write something. So maybe, this year, obviously, I didn't. I was getting the itch, but baseball really didn't. We had some preseason and spring training, I should say. Preseason is not really a baseball term, but I get the itch every once in a while. So you'll see me pop up and throw a little article up here and there. But for the most part, I just didn't have enough time to keep writing, even though I loved it. Once you have 4 kids, it's really tough to do that, balance your career. And then I had the choice in 2000. Like, the reason why we get involved at Metsmerized is because we love, number one, we love the Mets. We love baseball. We love writing. And it's, at some point, I think we all have the dream that, hey, I would love to do this for a living and cover the Mets. And, I was at a point where I had to kind of choose, like, do I focus and continue on this path of writing? And at the time, I was also a featured columnist at Bleacher Report, and I was doing Metsmerized as well, and Mets Minors. and I just kind of burned myself out. And at the same time, I was kind of at a crossroads in my career where I had to be, I was almost told, like, hey, it's great what you do, but we need you to, kind of focus on one or the other. And I had to focus on the career because, I had a family, and that ultimately was about paying the bills and all that good stuff. So that's my little backstory on that. But I loved it. I loved doing it. My time there was great. And, I still follow somewhat you guys over there. I always feel like I'm part of the family. I think Joe, I still keep in contact with him. I send them stuff for giveaways. So, so I think I'm still kind of part of the family, even though I'm not always, engaged and in there. I think he always looks at me that way. I hope he does anyway.
Oh, I'm sure he does. Yeah, it really is a trip trying to juggle. Like, I'm in the same position. I have a 9 to 5, well, a 7 to 3. I got 2 kids at home. And, there's just a passion to write. It's, I think that ship has sailed for me to actually get a job in this industry. But, this is probably the next best thing. And, just to, I'll never be a quote-unquote sports writer, but I'm certainly having a blast doing what I'm doing and making cool contacts and doing things I never really expected to. It's a fun team, and it's a really cool second job.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. And like I was saying, like, Steve and I, probably right around when I started writing at Metsmerized, the way I even got involved with it was Steve, me, and another guy were trying to put together a New York sports social network, believe it or not. We actually launched it. It was, we were LLC. And like I said, like, the career was pulling me in one direction. And when I hear, like, how David Portnoy, how he poured his heart and soul into Barstool Sports, and he stuck with it, even though there was times where he didn't know if he was going to pay the bills and this and that. But that's really how I got involved with Metsmerized. What happened was a family relative and friend, actually, had his own blog called Big Apple Mets Talk. And he would write on Metsmerized every once in a while, and he knew Joe. And Joe would let him write on the site to get his smaller blog some exposure, which was cool. And then when he came to me and he was like, you should start writing. You know so much about baseball, blah, 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 all this stuff. And I was like, I never read blogs before. Like, never. I never went to a blog for baseball or any sports information. It was, I watched ESPN, I watched whatever on TV, I looked at it, all the mainstream sites. I never really went to a blog. So I was like, blog? I was like, I don't know. I was like,
I think at that time too, Mitch, it wasn't as social media dominated.
No, not even close.
As many outlets as there are now. I mean, back then you kind of got most of your news from the mainstream. Now, if you want to find something out quickly, I mean, the first place that I'm looking if I want to know something quickly is Twitter.
Yeah,
and that wasn't nearly the case back then.
So that's exactly right. And so what we wanted to do was create a sports network for New York sports. So we took his Big Apple Sports Talk name, and I'm sorry, Big Mets. What was it? What was it again? Big Apple Mets Talk. And then I said, well, we're going to turn this into Big Apple Sports Talk, and we're going to have a site dedicated to the Knicks, the Mets, the Yankees, the Rangers. I think that was it. I don't think we had Islanders. I think we had the 4 main teams. And I actually went to Joe originally to ask him to build me out the website. I knew nothing about WordPress. I knew nothing about any of that stuff. I just had this idea and this passion. And then I said, well, can I start writing for your website? Just because I would like, practice to get some exposure. And that's literally how I started writing on Metsmerized. And then I also know the VP at Bleacher Report. So I reached out to him and I was like, hey, listen, I really love writing about baseball prospects. And that was a niche that was really underserved at the time. I don't know, Tim, if you remember, Metsblog used to run, I think they used to call it Mets Minors as well. I can't remember what they called it. But they were the only place you could get like Mets minor league, and the prospects were just ignored at that time. So I brought that up.
There was a dearth of available minor league information on the web at that point back then.
Yeah.
You had to really grind.
Yes.
And look for what you wanted.
You had your what's his name? I can't think of his name now. He was on Oh, why can't I think of his name?
Heath Law.
No. But there was somebody else. I just forget his name.
What, from Metsblog?
No. It was
You had Baseball America. That was before.
Yeah, pretty much that was it.
Yeah. Pipeline. Oh, Jonathan Mayo.
It might have been him. I can't remember who it was.
That's before even Pipeline.
No, it's Sickles. Is his name Sickles or something like that?
I don't know.
Oh, you got me there.
I can't remember his name. But he was, I mean, that was basically it. This guy, I can't remember his name, though. He wrote for a blog. He wrote for, damn, I can't even think of the blog name. Shit, man. But anyway, so I started writing, and the guy at Bleacher was like, you should focus on prospects and video and this and that. And all these avenues, like in 2012 and 13, that were not being used yet. So, like, I started doing video analysis on prospects for MMO. I never got a podcast going, but I did a video, and I would try to break down the prospects mechanics and this and that, all this stuff. And I was really having, I was like, I mean, I don't want to take credit for this, but I was like, I feel like I was one of the first that brought, at least to blogging, the aspect of looking at a prospect from a scout, because I played baseball my whole life, very high levels. So I understand the game. I understand what the scouts are looking for. But also I started to bring in stats to back up my analysis as well. So it wasn't just me picking, a guy and saying, oh, he's going to be good because I like his swing, which a lot of people at the time were doing and just regurgitating what they had read off another site. So I wanted to bring another aspect to it. So I brought my experience from baseball as well as stats. And then, I thought I had a pretty successful run there. So it was a lot of fun. And I still do that.
You still have a lot of regurgitation on the internet.
Yeah.
Stuff like that,
but Tim, you're here because we're talking about cards, right? So, and yeah. And you know what? Bowman is the perfect product to talk about, because when you're talking about prospects and looking and analyzing and doing all that good stuff, you're always looking, and baseball's always looking for that next Mike Trout now, I feel like. Me and Steve talk about that a lot. But how does your background in baseball, when did you get back into collecting? Because I know you recently, and by the way, you can follow Tim, his Twitter handle is Pulling Hits, right? At Pulling Hits?
Yeah, that's the card side. I just keep the baseball card stuff there, but yeah, it's at Pulling Hits. Pulling Hits.
So how long did you just get back into? Did you do it for a long time and just get back into it, or were you always doing it and now you're like, hey, I want to bring this to the and share it, my experiences and stuff like that. Like when did you what made you decide to start that handle up and really start digging back into cards?
Well, I was a kid of the 90s, so of course, we were just knee deep in cards. Me and my brother, every dollar we got, we went and ran to the collectible store. But, as I got older, priorities took place. I became a father at a young age, so, kind of took a back seat. Whatever collection I did have, I lost in Hurricane Sandy. It was in our basement, and I had it up on a shelf, I thought it was safe, and it wasn't. So that wiped out pretty much the whole collection. When my daughter, my youngest, was 8, or around then, she started taking an interest in baseball. She saw a couple of my old cards. And, I grabbed a couple of packs from Walmart or something. And, she took an interest, or maybe she was just trying to appease me. But, got back into it. She really likes the magenta Topps Inception parallels, so we've been kind of collecting those, and gives me an excuse to spend some money. And I probably went a little overboard. I have a box full of pink magenta Inceptions now that she's like, oh yeah, cool, daddy. But it definitely sparked me back up. The Twitter handle, I don't know, I'd love to kind of jump into more aspects of this hobby. I love the breaks. I love the breaks you do. Just even ripping cards on camera. We kind of have a lot to, as people with our so deep into the game as far as from a fan's perspective. I don't want to call it inside information, but we have readily accessible information, and we can formulate our own opinions on these players with somewhat decent knowledge on them. So it's kind of like stock speculation, I guess you could say.
100%.
It's something that I know really, really well. So I'm having a blast.
Yeah, and oddly enough, you'd be surprised how how much the hobby, or at least baseball, is still driven by home runs. Like, they don't look at the complete package for the player. And it's similar in basketball, too. The guy that's scoring all the points is obviously going to be the guy that is the hot player.
And Mitch, just coincidentally, I think the perfect example of where you're going with this is Jeff McNeil.
Oh, you don't want to go to Jeff McNeil with it. All right, where are you going with this, Steve?
The on-field performance does not translate into hobby success.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear. I feel the same way about Tim Anderson, too, by the way. But you're absolutely right, because he was ignored for... I mean, dude, he was ignored. He was never a top prospect.
Who, McNeil?
No.
No, put up great numbers, but never really... injuries bothered him, and he never was able to put it all together.
Yep. And he started baseball late, as we know. So, I mean, he got off to a slow start. He was a golfer, right, in high school, I believe. And
he probably could have went pro. That's what
yeah. And he didn't. He played club baseball, which a lot of people don't. I kind of overlook. I think he did play like summer league and stuff like that for baseball, but he didn't play his high school, I think, until his senior year. So he did get off to a slow start. Maybe scouts didn't recognize it, but I mean, the dude's a solid everyday player, and Jeff McNeil is the perfect example of exactly what we're talking about here. Like, Tim, you and I know how valuable he is, and Steve, I know Steve lives in New York, and I'm a Mets fan. He's a Yankee fan, but we talk a lot, so he knows, how I feel about him, and he recognizes. I mean, game recognized game, right, Steve? I mean, you recognize when.
He was in the batting title race, and frankly, he's ignored in the hobby. Just absolutely ignored.
Yeah, I think he's ignored by everyone except Mets fans. Let's be real. And sometimes that comes because Mets fans tend to overvalue some of their players a lot of times. But in this case, I think they're absolutely right that he is everything and probably going to get just better as he gets more experience as he keeps playing. And so, yeah, that's a great point, Steve. But a lot of, like I said, if you're hitting a ton of... That's why Tim was in the break earlier. And who did we talk about? Hold on, he's right here. Oscar Gonzalez, right?
Gonzalez, that's
Oscar Gonzalez. So I brought up, we hit a couple Oscars. Steve wasn't in the break early. He's going to be co-hosting eventually, but in the breaks as well. But I brought up the point. He's got some pop. He's got some power. And then Tim started dropping stats in the YouTube chat. And then what was the first thing I said to Tim was, well, what's his swing and miss look like? Because I know that everyone goes gaga over home runs, but especially, let me see what level he's at. I don't even know what level
you know what? No, I replied to you. I don't know if you saw it in the
you probably didn't catch it.
Section. All right, so in 2018, he struck out like 22% of his at-bats or plate appearances. I guess he went to two levels in 2019.
Okay.
And his combined K rate was something like a 16%. So he dropped like
he got
8
better.
Percentage points.
Yeah,
he dropped like 8 percentage points in his K rate. So
all right, so
he's certainly progressing.
Oh yeah, so he's at AA. He was a 2016 Arizona League MVP. Holy cow!
Yeah.
Wow, how's this guy?
That's where I heard about Apostle.
Yeah, he's
rigged.
Yeah.
Can I curse? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you can.
He was MVP of the AFL in 2016.
Yeah, that's what it says here. Arizona League, not the Arizona Fall League.
Oh, okay.
I got confused. Sorry, guys. Okay. So not the AFL, the Arizona League MVP. So that what is that, single A? He was, but yeah, like I said, like a lot of players.
Oh, that's rookie. No, that's rookie ball, right?
Okay.
Arizona.
Yeah. You're right. So a lot of guys, I mean, a lot of the collectors still run to the home run. But there's so much speculation when Bowman first launches that you'll see the first 2 weeks, maybe even 3 weeks, after this product launches, you got guys, if they're a position player and they play like a premier position, shortstop or center field, dude, people are going to pay through the nose for these guys. They are. And you'll see them drop off really quick after that.
You know who didn't really take off, but I expected him to, was Josh Smith from the Yankees. He was a second-round pick last year as a shortstop.
Mm-hmm.
very, very impressive numbers, but he didn't even make it into the 2020 Bowmans. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to him, and he kind of profiles similarly to Jeff McNeil, where he's a elite bat to ball, doesn't strike out a bunch, but he's not going to wow you with power.
Yep.
So maybe he's one of those guys that's going to fly under the radar, like those sexy stats you were talking about. It really it makes a lot of difference in the hobby. This isn't necessarily based on weighted runs created plus. This is about chicks dig the long ball.
Yeah, and I don't think the hobby will ever shift to WRC because they probably just don't understand it. And a lot of them are just like, hey, who hit the most home runs? What position does he play? What team is he on? Which all are important, don't get me wrong. But there's so much more to, if you really want to project and find, I'm telling you right now, I say it to everyone I talk to, I sell the guys that are big names when these products come out immediately. Because the majority of the time, they're never going to be worth more than they are at the time that product launches. Some may go up a little here and there, but the most of the time they drop. The minute they hit minor league ball and they start playing and they're not hitting close to 400 and blasting home runs, their prices come down, except for the top, the very top tier. The Jason Dominguez's, I don't think you're going to see a drop off much. You could, but I don't think you will. But
I think the other thing that makes baseball very different than basketball and football is that baseball is much more stats driven than football and basketball are, where that's more winning driven.
Yeah.
I don't think if someone averages 30 a game or 28 a game or 26 a game, it's not going to affect their cards in that much of a different fashion. As compared to baseball, if you hit 55 home runs compared to 45 home runs, that's gigantic in the hobby.
Well, and the perfect example of what you just said is Juan Soto and Acuna. Acuna, obviously, he puts up slightly better numbers. Don't sleep on Soto.
World Series ring.
Exactly, and he won the World Series already, and he's younger, and Acuna gets the love. And I get it. He hits more home runs. He's going to get more stolen bases. But
we equate that to a football quarterback that won the Super Bowl being worth less than a quarterback who didn't win a Super Bowl if they had equitable stats. It would never happen in a million years. That would never happen.
Yep.
So baseball's very, very unique in that aspect.
And
that's why Soto's rookie card. A couple of $100. If you get a PSA 10, maybe it's a lot more. But you got this guy here. I don't know if you guys can see that.
Yeah, bat down, baby.
Bat down, bro. I mean,
Steve can't see it, but I saw it.
It's an iconic card, and he's still got a long way to go. But I think Tatis is going to be another guy.
Yeah.
I think that he certainly has the ability to kind of transcend the elite, which it's exciting. I think Alonso kind of has some steam behind him, but yeah, man, Acuna is just he's gold right now.
I told Steve, when Steve first came up, a lot of players or a lot of non-Met fans didn't believe the hype about Alonso. Steve, you have to admit you didn't believe it at first.
We actually had a very spirited debate before Tatis got hurt about who the Rookie of the Year was. I don't know if you remember that conversation.
I do. But why did I tell you? What was the number one reason why I said Alonso was for real? I want to see if you listened and learned from what I taught you.
I do not recall, so tell me.
The amount of home runs that he hits to right center field shows you that this dude can fucking hit. Okay?
Yeah, look at Judge's power to the opposite. It's the same type of, and that doesn't go away.
If a right-handed hitter hits the majority or a good portion of their home runs to right center field, they can fucking hit. That's it. You don't have to. That's it.
Case in point.
Yeah.
Case in point, David Wright. That was his power alley for years.
Yep.
And how they didn't build Citi Field around David Wright's power alley is still beyond me. But
we could question them a lot of things about that stadium. Right?
Those guys are much less susceptible to going into those pull-heavy 2-month slumps that some of these guys go through.
Yeah, and Steve will tell you in the mid-2000s. Me and Steve were roommates back in when the Mets had that mid-2000s run, and I used to I never liked David Wright's swing. I always was like, it looked too long, but the dude always hit. So that's what I'm going, like, just what you see, your eyeball test is not always.
And I'll be the first to admit I was 1,000% wrong. I would have gave Reyes the long-term money, not Wright. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought Reyes was the better long-term bet.
I remember that. I think a lot of people may have thought that. But, hey, we live and learn, right?
Yeah, Wright was on his way to a very special career before injuries kind of wiped that out. But
he was starting to get like that national notoriety. Like he was Captain America on Team USA.
Yeah.
Like he was ready to be, I want to say, almost the face of baseball. Like he was a player in New York. Steve, we lost you there real quick. Hang on. You're breaking up a little. Go, talk.
You got me?
Yeah, you're good.
I think if David Wright doesn't get hurt, he has a very comparable career to Chip Jones. I think that's a very similar.
Did you say Chipper?
Yeah.
All right.
Sure.
I'll take that.
If he doesn't get hurt. If he doesn't get hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But hey, listen. I mean, same thing with Don Mattingly. I still think he should be in the Hall of Fame. That dude and we have this discussion. Tim, go back. Tim,
let me jump in on this, Mitch. Tim, I'm interested in your opinion on this. I'm a dominate the game guy. Steroids aside, I'm the kind of guy that I'd rather have Jose Canseco in the Hall of Fame than Fred McGriff. I want a guy that dominated baseball or was at least the best at his position for a period of time. What's your opinion on that, compiler versus dominated the game for the Hall of Fame?
All right, so I'm going to take your example, and I'm going to go McGriff just because I remember McGriff, and he was just one of the most feared hitters in the game. I think that a lot of people of a certain age maybe didn't catch him in his prime, but just a feared hitter. I remember he smoked. He was with Tampa Bay, and they came to Shea in 2000, and he killed the Mets one game. Just absolutely smoked them. But Canseco's a tough one. All right, I'm going to look at Omar Vizquel. Omar Vizquel is a compiler. I don't want to say I throw away his offensive stats, but because he was such a long career and he put together such just so many hits and over all that time, I don't think he gets in. I think his defense is all-time defense, but I don't think his offense holds as much weight because he was a compiler.
I would actually defend Omar Vizquel only in the sense it's the same argument I have for Andrew Jones. Andrew Jones is the best defensive outfielder I've ever seen in my lifetime. So at least in one aspect of the game, he was the best. And he dominated the game. So I don't even actually have as much of a problem with a guy like Vizquel or a guy like Andrew Jones, where they were the best in the game at their aspect. I have more of a problem with a guy like Craig Biggio.
Yeah, see, that 3,000 hit mark, man.
It's a threshold.
Yeah, it is that threshold. But, somewhere along that line, all right, how do you view Rafael Palmeiro? I know, okay, the steroids thing. Let's put that aside.
To me, he's not a Hall of Famer, Mitch. Your thought?
Dude, 3,000 hits, 500 home runs. He had two benchmarks.
I don't think Rafael Palmeiro was ever one of the 5 best first basemen in the league at any point.
But are we?
I don't know, man.
See, that's Steve's argument, though. Steve sticks to he likes his Hall of Famers to be dominant. You had to have been a top 3 for.
Yes. I want some top 3 MVPs. I want stuff like that.
So back to Don Mattingly.
Wait. All right. I'm sorry. What about Hank Aaron? Hank Aaron never hit more than.
That's to far extreme. If you that's compiling to the next level. But it's a fair argument. Yeah, it's a fair point though.
I wanted to see if I could get you, Steve.
No, I know he never hit 50.
You are sure.
It's a fair. That's the argument. That's kind of the contradiction of my argument. Yes.
But I think compilers, while they don't dominate, their level of consistency over such a long period of time, there's something to be said about that too, because how many players do we see that are dominant for 3, 4, even 5 years and then fizzle out? I mean, I love Ken Griffey Jr., but the reality is from 90 to 2000, one of the best players I ever saw. From the next 10 years, very average. And
popped both hamstrings.
No, I know, but that comes into play with being a compiler, like staying healthy and bad luck and good luck. That all, I mean, a lot of it has to do with it. Like, but at the end of the day, like those guys played at a consistent level, a very high level for a very long time, which is just, I think, as valuable to your team and to the sport as completely dominating for, I don't know how many years, maybe 5 years. Like Don Mattingly dominated for probably 5 years, from
About
85,
5 years, from
85 to 90.
Yeah, 4 or 5 years, 84 to say 88, 89.
Yeah, I think 90 is when he started to come down a little bit.
The back problems, yeah.
But like, what's more valuable?
Well, how about Hernandez? What about Keith Hernandez? Probably one of the best fielding first basemen of his generation.
Yep.
I think a 299 career batting average, which still holds a lot of weight with voters.
Yep.
If you go beyond that into his peripheral stats, even more impressive, just above average on a consistent basis. Certainly in the Hall, very good. But what do you guys think about Keith Hernandez? He had probably a longer, more prosperous tenure than Mattingly.
I think he's Hall of very good. I think the peak Mattingly years, Hernandez never approached that. Great player. I'd take him on my team in a heartbeat, but I think he's the Hall of very good. And I think he comes to, I also have another thing for a Hall of Famer. If you have to think about it, to me, the guy isn't a Hall of Famer. I kind of hold by that.
See, I feel like
here's another one. What about Carlos Beltran? We both saw him. He's going to be.
Tim's going to tell you he's a Hall of Famer because he
is.
I'm more on Steve's end on that one. I never really saw him as a Hall of Fame. See, for a Hall of Fame player, I feel like you have to be like, dude, like I don't know, like. We look at the stats.
This might be the Yankee talking to me. If you put Carlos Beltran in, you have to put Bernie Williams in.
I was a big proponent of Bernie Williams, and I
like Bernie too.
I was very ticked off that he did not get shown any love. I thought Bernie was definitely deserving of a few years on the ballot. I can't say that he was a Hall of Famer, but I think he should have stayed on the ballot for a while.
I've held steadfast in this, and Mitch has heard me say this.
Yeah.
From 95 to 2001, counting Jeter, counting Rivera, counting Posada, Martinez, O'Neill, I think Bernie Williams was the single most important Yankee to that entire run.
I would agree with that. I mean,
I don't know. Paul O'Neill is such a...
Yeah, Paul O'Neill too. I mean, but Bernie was like, I feel like he always got a big hit.
Bernie was there.
He always he always sparked them, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, switch hitter, go. I mean, he had one of the worst arms of all time. But switch hitter, he won Gold Gloves. He shouldn't have. But switch hitter, Gold Glove, cleanup hitter, that's
what?
Pretty good.
How did we get in a Hall of Fame discussion on a card podcast, by the way?
I don't know.
That's how you know it's a good one, bro.
I was just I just wanted to talk about Don Mattingly for a second, and next thing I know, I'm wrapped up into this emotional roller coaster of a Hall of Fame discussion. Hall of Fame discussions they usually don't end well. Two people are usually arguing, and like you're choking one person.
It's
they're
like
just not good.
or religion.
Yeah, you can't really.
You put it under the same file, under the same list.
Yeah, man.
Religion.
Dude, people take that shit's really, really serious, man.
Oh, yeah.
It's very serious. So I saw Tim getting a little upset on the. You can't see him, Steve. I should put you guys face to face so that you can duke it out on the phone too.
No, I wasn't getting upset at all. I think Steve was making some.
No, I was joking. All right, so Tim.
Yes.
You said now you said something earlier that I have actually been I use my son as an excuse to get back into cards. I used to own a business in the early 2000s, obviously like you, late 80s, early 90s kids. So was Steve. Funny story. You want to hear a funny story, Tim?
Always.
All right. So I lived in the Bronx till I was about 12 years old. I moved up here in 1991. I'm in Fishkill, New York. And there was a baseball card shop in Fishkill, New York. Now in the Bronx, I didn't have a lot of card shops to go to, so we would get the local candy store, which was called Cappy's back in the day. I had to go there and get my baseball cards. We had comic book stores, but we never had, not that I know of anyway, baseball card shops. I don't remember going to any. So when I came up here, they had a card shop, which really started to build my love of cards and take it to another level. And funny story is, like 20 years later, not even 20, it was probably 15 years later, when Steve and I met in college, and then, we found out that, like, he used to go to that same card shop with his dad, and he lived in Waterbury, Connecticut. He would drive an hour and almost an hour, right? Waterbury's an hour, right?
Yeah, at least.
An hour, maybe an hour to an hour and a half, let's say, to get to that card shop. And, I used to ride my bike there with all my buddies. And, like, just to hear that he used to go to that, that's how big that card shop was. But then, like, we talk about it all the time, once that card shop closed, like, once the junk wax era kind of wiped out a lot of the card businesses and they closed that card shop down, there was no Walmart selling cards back, I think it was late 90s, so I kind of,
for a lot of us.
Yeah, so I just kind of stopped. And of course, that's a different time. Like, I was very dedicated to, I was in college, playing baseball, partying, all that good stuff. So, like, you're not looking to buy cards. But soon as we got out of college and we had, like, disposable income and we found the card shop down the road, and Steve and I, when we had our bachelor pad, we would hit that card shop every Friday. And like, I would like blow paychecks in there. It was either going to the bar or the card shop. So so we brought a little bit of that back. But then again, we kind of drifted away from the market again, because it lost a little bit of steam for whatever reason in the mid to late to early, I guess, like 2008 to like 2012, even 13, we kind of stopped. But then,
yeah, and you know what it was too, Mitch, is we don't bring this up. The boxes were getting too expensive and before breaking, you were spending $300-$400 for a box with limited hope of even getting half of that back. It wasn't sustainable.
Yeah, number one, breaking actually helped bring me back in, because I was like, what is this? I could buy a team and you just send me the cards instead of and I have a shot and a whole case versus one box? Like,
if it wasn't for
that
breaking,
changed it.
I don't know if I'd get back in either.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah.
And the other thing was my son, but he could not even be bothered with any of these cards, and I tried so many times. He just doesn't want to be bothered, but I still used that as an excuse, like, to go and be like, hey, Jax, you want to go check out the card section? No. All right, well, I'm going anyway.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys go shopping. I'm gonna go poke around.
Yeah.
Right away. She's like, you're going to get cards. I'm like, yeah, of course I am. Like, I got this one here, and I'm like, oh honey, look, I got a magenta Keston auto patch. And she's like, yeah, who is that? I'm like, oh come on, honey. I'm trying to teach her. Just the fact that she wants to look at it is good enough for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I tried to get my daughter into it too. I used Haley Deegan. So Tim, I don't know if you know about her, but she's NASCAR, and she's gonna be like, they're hoping like the female face of NASCAR in the next couple of years. And Beckett actually had her rookie card. It's from 2018 Prism, as they did the top 50 most. I think it was 50. It might have been 100, but top 50, I believe it was, most influential cards of the 2010s, so from 2010 to 2020, basically, and she was on the top 50. So I was like, okay, this might be somebody that I could, maybe bring my daughter in and give her a positive female role model to look up to, and something for us to do together to connect as, father-daughter, like you are doing with your daughter. And I love how you found the pink magenta card, something maybe to try and connect. That's what you got to do.
I got a box, and that was one of the parallels. She's like, oh, that's awesome. I'm like, jackpot, that's my in.
Yeah. That's one of the things you got to do. You got to find something that connects with them, and then, use it as an excuse to just buy cards yourself.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And her older sister, she's 15, my oldest, and yeah, she could care less about anything. She actually turned to me last night. I was trying to tell Lily about it. She turned. She's like, "Daddy, we don't care." I'm like, "Oh, that's nasty, bro. You're doing me dirty."
Yeah, my kids, like, when I go nuts if I hit a big card. And, like, I did so many breaks and I would hit Luka Doncic cards, who, I mean, I'm sure you know, Tim. I know you're not big into basketball.
I'm
but
just getting back into basketball.
I would hit Luka's last year and I'd go nuts. And I try not to curse around them, but I do. And I'd be like, "I hit a fucking Luka," and I'd be going nuts. And then, like, they like, my daughter, my 3-year-old daughter now, like, I'll put on basketball and she'll be like, "Daddy, Luka? Is that Luka?" And she knows who Luka Doncic is. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is such a proud moment. This is such a proud moment for me. The other kids don't care, but the 3-year-old girl is like, "Jordan? Luka?" Like, she knows these players. And I'm just like, that's impressive. Like,
it's awesome. Dude, they hear and listen and remember everything.
Yeah, that's kind of scary when you put it that way. But, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, they're just like little mini tape recorders and, like, recording everything. And,
sponges, dude.
Oh,
they are sponges.
Yeah, you don't realize it until they get a little older and you're like, "Where'd you hear that?" You. And I'm like, "Oh, yeah. All right.
I learned it
Sorry.
from watching you.
Yeah. I remember that commercial.
Hell yeah, bro.
Steve, you remember that commercial?
Which one?
It's the commercial. We shouldn't make a joke out of this because it's a serious thing. But the guy comes in and he has, like, the little box full of, like, drug paraphernalia. He goes, "Where did you get this?" The father, he goes, "I learned it from watching you."
Yes.
The drug commercials in the 80s were hilarious.
That's one of the most famous from our childhood.
Yes.
Oh, that was great.
There was a ton of good commercials back then. They don't make... Dude, did you hear Elmer Fudd losing his rifle now, too?
Yes, I did.
A hunter. They're taking...
Poor guy.
Nobody wants violence, but, I mean, we grew up on those, and I'm not running around, that's another... I'm not getting into that discussion or debate. It's not working.
Yeah,
let's keep it on cards here. But, yeah, let's steer it back. I shouldn't have brought up Elmer Fudd. How do you even get it back on the rails after that? I don't know. Yeah. So Tim, it's great to have you back in the hobby. I think I had a little something to do with bringing you back. I have to say,
Oh, for sure.
I think I was sharing some love with you in the card world, and I was very happy to see you get more involved. So I was like, oh man, I hope that me doing that really brought him back. And because I love to see people get back. I'm not trying to take credit for it. I'm just saying, like, it brings me joy that you reconnected with it, because it's brought me a lot of heartache, but also tons of joy. And it's really a hobby and something fun to do. So I'm really glad. I hope I did help influence that and bring you back. And and I'm always here if you have any questions. Steve, the same. And you're always
Absolutely.
a friend you're always going to be a friend to the show. You're from the MMO family, but I'm glad that you got back into it, and I'm sure that you're going to share that love and pass it along now, and get somebody else back. Get someone else back into the hobby that may have been missing it and had that void, and bring them back to their youth. That's what it's all about, man. Being happy in life.
And especially in this day and age, it's just an escape, and we all need an escape.
Yep.
Yeah. Dude, ripping open packs makes me feel like a 10-year-old again, and it's the coolest feeling in the world.
It does. It really does. I mean, it's a little bit different now. The packs have a little more luster to them. I mean, when we were kids, I couldn't do a break and hopefully hit a card. Literally, if somebody hits Dominguez, I'm calling $250,000 on that superfractor, and somebody's gonna have a shot. Somebody's gonna buy a filler. I know $300 is a lot of money, but I mean, when you compare it to the fact that you could literally pull a superfractor worth $250,000, or let's take NT for example, through the roof. NT basketball launch. What is that launch tomorrow or the day? I can't even remember.
Friday.
I know it's this week.
Friday.
When that launches, somebody's going to hit a logo man or even a regular RPA of Zion and be able to pay off their house. Probably. Seriously, like, it's real. Like, And we didn't have, like, back then, we were happy just to get a card of a player that we liked. It's way different now.
And it's the same thing with Dominguez. A little bit lower, but...
No, that's what I just said. $250,000 for the Dominguez Super. He'll easily $250,000, I think, if not more. Because when you're dealing with those 101s, you bring out the people with the big bucks, and they want that. They want to know that only I have this. You know what I mean? And that's what those 101s really do. You know?
I've never pulled a 101, never pulled a Super. The lowest I have is a 5.
All right, so you want to hear another story, Tim?
Yeah.
All right. So me and Steve had a ton of stories of our hobby miscues through the years. So I'll tell you a little story. I'll tell you a little story about a 101 that we pulled. A lot of times we would split boxes, and then if we'd sell the cards in and split the money afterwards. So we opened up a box, and back then football was huge. So you had Ben Roethlisberger's rookie year, you had Phillip Rivers, you had Eli Manning. Football was freaking huge. 2004. I don't remember. It was Upper Deck Reflections, I think.
Reflections.
So Upper Deck Reflections. Upper Deck used to do football back then. They were the. I still think that they're my favorite card company, even though they're not in. They don't have licensing. I always loved their photography. Anyway, so we got Upper Deck.
Upper Deck Collector's Choice was the best.
I loved Upper Deck products, and they exquisite for. I mean, they did it right, and it's a shame. I hope one day that they get to revisit some of that stuff. Anyway, so we pull out of this Upper Deck Reflections box. Now you got to remember at the time, and this is another story of why. Again, with the quarterbacks, I can't tell you the Tony Romo story, Tim. You'll have to go back and watch it, or I'll tell you another time. But at the time, Phillip Rivers was drafted by the San Diego Chargers, who had Drew Brees as their quarterback at the time. Now, he was coming off the arm injury. That was his shoulder injury year that they drafted him, or right around that time, anyway.
He was like a second-year quarterback when he got the shoulder injury.
Yeah,
that was a nasty injury.
So it's 2004. They draft Phillip Rivers, and they're Drew Brees is still like he's good, and it's like why would they be drafting Phillip Rivers? And you just assume he's going to be the backup to Drew Brees at this point. So Steve and I pull a 1-of-1 Phillip Rivers rookie card. Tim, we sold it in a lot.
1-of-1.
We sold it in a lot with other cards, and I think we might have got. I don't even think we got $100 for the lot.
We didn't get $100 for it.
That's just one example of the many examples that we've had. And but you got to remember. So I always preach take the money when you could take it. But if the money's not there, just wait and hold it. I've learned because we didn't know at the time that Phillip Rivers would go on to be one of the most prolific passers in NFL history, and he's probably undervalued.
One of the best without a ring.
Yep, excuse me. Yeah, and he's pretty undervalued right now. But a 1-on-1 rookie card, I mean, you're talking probably thousands. You're talking thousands now. Obviously we're like 15 years later.
That was also before grading. Grading really hadn't taken off yet.
Yeah. But yeah, so there's a story of a 1-on-1 that we pulled as a tandem back in like 2004.
Yes, we did.
I can't think of any other 1-on-1s I pulled.
Well, I know, Mitch, you sent me a care package, I don't know, maybe a year ago. And this is right, like, I had started to buy cards again, but like, that was when I think you sent me a Jeff McNeil. I said I was searching for a Jeff McNeil rookie card.
Yeah.
You sent me a beautiful Jeff McNeil rookie. But yes, bro, I just wanted to kind of finish up what you said before. You definitely had a big hand in getting me back into it because it's that rush.
Yeah.
I want to say that you gave me a Zion draft night that has shot up in value.
Did I? Oh, see, man. I gave you too much, man.
Dude, I asked for a Jeff McNeil. I'm like, I'm going to get a base. It's like a gold label. I'm like, come on, man.
I don't even know how we got on that. I think I gave Joe. I did a giveaway for the new Twitter site that you guys had. I can't remember what I was doing. I can't remember. But anyway, it was my pleasure. And then you told me how you lost your cards in Sandy, and that made me feel. You didn't tell me before, and I was like, oh, pity party. Like, you told me after, and I was just like, oh wow, like it just made my day that I was able to, give you that back or some of it back, and then get you started back in the hobby. And now I see like you have your own Twitter dedicated to it. You're jumping in breaks all over. You got to be careful with that. Don't go overboard. And if you're gonna break, continue breaking at Monster Hits Club. No, I'm joking. You can break wherever you want. But yeah,
I will give a shout out, and I think you should check them out because they're a couple of really good guys. There's a few others, but I Chuck over at Mile High. Chuck at Cyber Owl. My apologies.
Okay.
Those guys are really cool. You should check them out.
Okay, I definitely will. I like to check out what other breakers are doing because I always say breaking and there's like three things that it boils down to. Number one is access to cards. So are you consistently, bringing product that people are interested in? Number two is personality. I mean, you got to be, you got to bring some sort of entertainment value. Otherwise, I can't break with you if you're just a monotonous or monotone, I should say. Just here's a nice Glenn Allen Hill Jr. rookie autograph. Like, dude, come on. You got to be chugging White Claws like I did earlier, right? Oh, Steve, I chug White Claws on the breaks now. That's my new thing. I'm trying to get a White Claw sponsorship, so yeah, I've been chugging White Claws during the breaks. Hopefully, I mean, I guess some people probably don't. If kids, I got to be careful because there may be kids watching. I never really thought of that. I got to reconsider.
No, just do like a 21 and over disclaimer, and we can all party with you.
You know what I'm gonna? No, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna pour it in a red Solo cup so nobody knows really what I'm drinking, and then I'm just gonna go nuts.
Yeah.
That's, or I'll put it in a brown paper bag, baby. Do it old school style. Yeah.
Like when you break, I don't drink. I don't drink anymore. It's been a number of years, but when we break, I like to take a hit for Monster Hits too. So I have to hide out in the garage and like.
There you go. Oh, look at this! Did you just hear that?
I heard it.
Yeah, we're confessing all kinds of things on the show tonight.
Oh, I don't care.
Oh my Lord!
It's all medicinal, I promise.
You're lucky that the police is afraid to even arrest anyone right now. You're perfect. You can go live saying.
Oh,
this.
No, I'm legal, bro. I'm good.
No,
I am completely legal.
I believe it. I'm just messing with you. I don't think they could trace where you live from the Skype thing anyway. So
come and get me.
Whoa, he's calling out! Oh, come get me! All right, so it's 8:15. Steve, should we wrap this up? Tim, you want to wrap this up, baby? I think it's time.
Guys, thank you. I can't thank you enough for having me on. This was so much fun.
I'm glad. Well, you can come on whenever you want. I mean, we do this usually 2-3 times a week. Maybe you can come on. Maybe every.
Yeah, as baseball season comes closer, I'd love to have him back on.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
talk shop, definitely, guys.
Yeah, I mean, you got to come with your stats though, and bring me like, these are the guys I'm looking at, and this is why I want reporting. I want it. No, I'm joking.
I enjoy new challenges, and yes, we could do that.
No, I'm just messing with you. But yeah, you can come on whenever you want. Like I said,
awesome.
It was a good show. I think, like I said, next time we got to talk more basketball because I wanted to talk basketball today, Steve, because as we know, the NBA's coming back. But you kept steering it towards baseball because I think Steve knows that you love baseball, Tim. So, but I really wanted to introduce Tim and get him. Give him some basketball tidbits.
Well, now we got a reason to bring him back.
Exactly. So next time we'll talk some basketball, and with the season coming up, and we know NBA's coming back, so it'll be good. So thanks, Tim, for joining. Again, check out his Twitter. Why don't you just plug all your stuff, Tim? Plug yours.
All right. The personal Metsmerized Mets content, baseball content, that's Timothy R. Ryder on Twitter. The baseball card account is @PullingHits.
Yep.
The podcast is simply amazing. You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. And keep it locked on to Metsmerized. That's @Metsmerized on Twitter.
Do you still write a lot on there, or not so much anymore?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, good.
I've been running out of content a little bit lately, but we still have a decent amount of stuff coming out. Probably I have like 2 or 3 op-eds a week, maybe another news article or 2. And we try to do a podcast once a week, so keep an eye out there.
Have you talked to Joe? I know we were supposed to wrap this up. Have you talked to Joe about maybe putting some sports collectible content on the site and doing some of that stuff? You think?
I have not.
I mean, what I'm going to
Joe
tell you
was a
right now.
collector. I know he was a collector.
In years past, it probably would have been a big fail. But ever since Gary Vee kind of brought it mainstream and with a lot of the millennials, I think now's the time to maybe. I even spoke to the guy I told you about at Bleacher Report. I'm like, dude, you guys dedicate to sneakers. This is not that far off, and it's probably a little bit bigger right now than sneakers.
Right now,
yeah. So he said, okay, I'll pass it along. But I saw a couple articles pop up. They haven't really dedicated anything to it yet. But I think that might be kind of cool to venture into if you're running out of content.
Dude, Blake Jamieson came on the pod last month, and really, the episode did good numbers. I know the Nolan Ryan that we were pushing did very well.
Yep.
So I know there's a market for it. All right, I think we're planting some seeds. I got to talk to Joe.
And you know what? Now's a good time because there's a lot of Mets players in the Topps 2020 project, too. You got your Nolan Ryan, your Dwight Gooden in there, and people...
Joe came out on Monday. Those things are awesome. You see
yeah,
those?
excuse me. So I think now is a good time maybe to venture. I would lead with that because it's such a hot product right now, Mets, and it brings up the nostalgia of like the older Nolan Ryan card, the 80s card, and I don't know, just an idea.
No, yeah,
Food for
I like
thought.
that idea.
All right, Tim, so thanks for joining us. And Steve, you got any closing remarks before we sign off?
No, I just want to thank Tim for coming on. I look forward to having him on again, and I really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, I did
Same
too.
here, Steve. Nice meeting you, man. And I do appreciate you guys having me on, and can't wait for next time.
I'm glad you guys are friends after all that Hall of Fame banter. But next time we'll talk NBA slam dunk champions, and we'll get into another heated debate.
Isaiah Ryder. Good night.
All right, guys. I'll talk to you soon.